calling to order Committee of the Whole, as well as the Subcommittee for Finance and Property. And it's 6 o'clock, and we have quite a few things on the agenda tonight. So I'm going to jump right into it, because tonight we have, on the agenda, we have library, we've got the solicitor's office, we've got the police department, we have the Parks and Rec and Enterprise Funds, and we also have public services, which includes engineering, public works, and the enterprise funds for airport, golf and tennis, and water and sewer. So quite a few things on the agenda tonight, and so I don't have that on the agenda, but there's no reason why we can't hear from another department that's underneath those services tonight. So we can, okay. Solicitor will mix it.
Does this need, is this on? I don't know which one. I don't have a copy of the agenda in front of me.
I'm not sure what was posted.
However, we ran into this last year also, I believe. And if the department is not listed on the agenda, then there's no notice under open meeting law that the department would be discussed. But like I said, I just didn't bring a copy of the agenda with me. I'm just trying to find the agenda on this. I haven't looked at the posted agenda, so do you have, oh, thank you, Chief Lonisher. So, right. So the agenda says department budget sessions, Allison Babin Library, Bethel Mixon Solicitor, Chief Lasher Police, Bruce Doig, Parks and Recreation Enterprise Fund, Mike Collins, Public Services, Engineering and Public Works, Enterprise Funds, Airport, Golf and Tennis, and Water and Sewer.
So if it's under community services though, and two of the other community services are there, it has to be individually spelled out?
Well, I don't even see community services on here.
Well,
so
they're,
I understand, right?
Yeah.
Parks and Rec and
library fall under.
Library fall under community services, but community services is not listed, so that doesn't give you the overarching.
Was there, had you received a?
I was speaking with Bruce on, we follow Bruce in community services.
Okay. So I didn't have it listed as community services because it's been listed as parks. I suspect, since I used the wording from last year, that if this was a problem last year, I didn't.
It came up last year in the context of the school budget.
Okay.
And there was a conversation, I believe Councilor Slain-Hilaire might be able to refresh my memory with the specifics, but I believe that was what happened last year was the school budget.
Councilor Slain-Hilaire?
Madam Chair, if I may offer, I had the same argument you had last year and was instructed by the solicitor that we were out of order for taking up something that was not specifically laid out on the schedule.
I just bring to the attention of the council that the Veterans Commission and Community Services are not listed on the agenda for consideration tonight.
Okay. If we submitted something tomorrow morning for having that meeting on Tuesday, the 16th, you
could add it to Tuesday's
agenda. I could add it to Tuesday.
Yeah,
there's not an existing meeting on Tuesday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I can, there's
another
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
It's Wednesday. Tuesday is open. I know that President Flowers can't make it, but I believe it was free on both of our schedules. So if it would be possible, I'm very sorry for miscommunication on this, but if it would work for other people's schedules in the room, I can schedule a meeting for Tuesday that can be for veteran services. Or I can actually make it community services, and then we can see whatever other departments, because I'm very sorry.
Make sure we catch everything that otherwise would
Yes,
fall.
I will post a meeting for Tuesday at 6 PM. That is the same committee, but it will be listed as community services, so anything we don't, if there is another department that comes up, we can take care of it then. Would that be okay with everyone's schedule?
What's the date?
Tuesday, the 16th. I'm sorry, I did not know it was listed out as such. Yeah, there's no questions right now. I'm very sorry. This was just a scheduling oversight in terms of what was posted, and I'm very sorry for that miscommunication. But I'll get you on first thing tomorrow morning. I'll get it filed, and we can post a meeting for seeing everyone on Tuesday night. Okay, and we can communicate if the timing isn't right. We can move the meeting time. I'm flexible with that. So, I'm very sorry. Okay, so with that, if we could have Ms. Babin, if you would like to present on the library. And thank you so much for being here tonight to present on this. And from your department falls under community services, and it's almost, the library budget is about half of the budget of the community services budget. So just to give people an idea of what that, section of the budget is. And community services itself is only 2.7% of the budget on the whole. So you're about 1.3% of the budget on the whole. And I see that there has been, from what was posted, what you posted, I do see that there's been a significant reduction in the line item from last year of about over $100,000. So I am happy to hear from you this evening.
Sure. So thank you. Thank you. Good evening, counselors, and thank you for the opportunity to present the library's budget request for fiscal year 2027. For anyone who may not know me or those watching at home, my name is Allison Babin, and I am the director of the Beverly Public Library. Believe it or not, I always look forward to this opportunity to tell you about all of the wonderful things we do at the library and to share some of the many data points that we collect that show how much the community uses the library. So far this year, the library has conducted 921 programs with 18,813 attendees. These are everything from story times to author talks to craft programs and more. Our children's librarians alone typically conduct around 9 story times each week. Babies and toddlers join their parents and grandparents, gather in a storytime room, listen to a librarian read them a story, sing and clap, and develop early literacy skills. This year, our reference department launched an extensive community resource fair attended by 130 people, connecting them to all kinds of organizations in our community. Our assistant director, who is here tonight, conducted a local author fair featuring 18 writers and attended by 110 people. Collectively, library staff conducted a community read with 21 programs attended by 391 people. These are just a few highlights of the many varied programs our staff has offered this year. We have circulated 331,461 physical materials in our buildings and on our bookmobile, as well as an additional 81,746 ebooks and audiobooks through our Overdrive collection. Visits to the library's buildings have been tracked at over 172,000 visits so far this fiscal year. Some of you have heard me make this comparison before, but that many people could fill the seats at Fenway Park about 4.5 times. In FY27, as the mayor has already previously shared when presenting his budget, the library will implement some service changes in light of reduced funding. These decisions were carefully made based on usage data to limit the impact to the community. The children's room of the main library will begin closing at 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and the Farms branch will have a new set of service hours that will continue to provide a mix of daytime, evening, and seasonal Saturday hours. What will we continue to do? We will continue to deliver the core services that Beverly residents rely on from their libraries. Provide a strong collection of both print and electronic books and materials, including online databases, both through Beverly and through our membership in Noble. Access to other materials, including magazines and newspapers, circulating hotspots, photo scanners, games, and more. Access to technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, printers, fax machines, scanners, a 3D printer, and iPads. Extensive programming for all ages, such as story times, author talks, workshops, craft programs, and more. We will circulate museum passes, which are funded by the Friends of the Library, for free or reduced admission to places like the New England Aquarium, MFA, PEM, etc. Access to librarians for information questions, reading recommendations, computer help, and referrals to resources. Provide comfortable public spaces for residents to enjoy that they don't have to pay a fee to use, including bookable meeting rooms and reservable study rooms. And we will provide robust service hours across 3 service points, including a bookmobile that travels to over 80 unique locations across the city on a 3-week rotation. Like all of you, I am very cognizant of the difficult financial situation that Beverly is in right now. And I want to make the point that it is a documented phenomenon that in times of financial crisis, library usage increases. The public turns to local libraries for free services when the economy slumps. When we have less to spend, we are that much more likely to need the resources and services offered to us free of charge by our libraries. And to borrow from the business world, I want to share the return on investment, or ROI, of our library. While the Beverly Public Library obviously does not turn a profit, it does not mean that it does not add immense value to the residents of the city. I used a tool called the Library Use Calculator from the Maine State Library, which uses a realistic retail value for library services, which are actually pretty fair. Each book borrowed is valued at $22 each, which is Amazon pricing, and services like meeting room use valued at $25 an hour. And when I plugged in our total use numbers from our annual state report for FY25 to calculate the return on investment, I get a total value of $7,014,262, which is a 301% ROI. And worth noting, the calculator does not even account for many of the services we offer, such as Library of Things, free notary service, or personalized reading lists. A few more ways of looking at that value. It is 3 times what Beverly invests in the library. And for every $1 tax dollar that Beverly invests in the library, residents get back $3.01 in services. These are services that do not cost community members any additional money beyond the taxes they have already paid in. I hope the council sees the value in fully funding the FY27 library budget request, which represents 1.3% of the total city budget, but delivers real direct value to residents. Thank you again for this opportunity to talk about the library, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. And one thing I forgot to mention at the very beginning of the meeting, Council President Flowers was feeling under the weather, and so she is following along from home. So that is why Councilor Houseman is joining me up here as the other Finance and Property Committee member. And feel better, President Flowers. So, okay, I'm gonna jump right in with one of my first questions is, how many employees does the library have, full-time equivalents?
So full-time equivalents, we have about 26 to 27. We have 19 18 full-time employees right now. And then we have a mix of part-time. And when you add those up and get the full-time equivalent, it comes out to about 27.
Okay. And that was part of the, was there a full-time equivalent reduction in that
Yes.
line item?
Yes,
Okay.
we are down 1 full-time employee and then about 0.8 in part-time staff.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go to my fellow subcommittee members if he has any questions.
I do, Madam Chair, thank you. Yes, I'm sorry, I missed the .8, the reduction?
So it's 0.8 FTE, so we have reduced, we lost a 16-hour-a-week admin assistant, which was really an accounts payable person. We lost that position to attrition earlier this year. Of course, the work hasn't gone away. That's mostly been absorbed by myself and the assistant director. And then we've reduced the hours of some part-time librarians and some page hours as well.
I see. So, yeah, I have a couple of questions. Can you break down the usage between the main branch and the farms branch in terms of, participation, public participation, but also FTEs, and also, not to have a compound question, but I guess I will, but you mentioned the farm's hours.
Yeah.
Under this budget has been reduced. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes. So it all kind of ties together, right? So when we became aware that we were going to have a bigger budget reduction than well, we've been through a couple versions of the budget at this point. So we knew we had to reduce the budget, and so we looked really closely at all the data, where the usage is, where this would make the most sense. And it is true, I do want to say, the Farms Library is a beautiful branch. I know it's very valued by the community, and I love it too. And no librarian wants to reduce hours at any library. But the usage at the Farms branch is much lower than the main library. So when you look at the circulation data, and a good year to look at is FY24, because that year was not affected by the fire at the Farms branch, which led to a partial closure for part of the year. But when you look at that year and you look at the total circulation, 82% of our circulation was done out of the main library, 12% was done on the bookmobile, and only 6% was done at the Farms. So it does have the lowest usage. And we see similar numbers. We have door counters that we have at the entrances of all our buildings, and so we track the physical visits in and out of the building. And when you look at that, we get about 5.8 times more visitors at the main library than the Farms branch. And that is across about 6 years. We looked from 2018 through 2024. So that's kind of the usage side. And then on the staffing side, our staffing structure at the Farms is normally 2 full-time employees and then a mix of part-time hours, which I know I have this all written out somewhere and I'm not seeing it, but I can find it if you want those specific details. And of course, a lot of our functions are centralized out of the main library. We process and order all the books really out of the main library, so a lot of the functions happen at the main library anyways.
And, excuse me, when you mentioned the reduced hours at the Farms, maybe I missed that.
Yeah, no, I didn't go into the details of it. So we are changing from, we're currently at, in FY26, we had 52 hours open at the Farms branch, 45 hours seasonal. Just like at the main library, where we're only open on Sundays from October through May, at the Farms, we're only open on Saturdays from October through May. So 52 hours / 45, depending on time of year. In FY27, we'll be shifting to 33 hours open / 30 hours open. It'll be open Monday through Thursday, closed on Friday, and then a half day on Saturday seasonally. And that's because we're going down 1 full-time employee at the Farms branch.
Thank you. Just to clarify, your seasonal hours are going from 45 to 30. Is that where the difference is?
It's on both sides, so from 52 to 33,
Okay,
and then 45 to 30.
thank you.
Sure.
That's all my questions for the moment.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Babin. I guess in follow-up to the questions on the Farms branch, as you mentioned, is a valuable resource. We're disappointed to see the reduction, and it is pretty significant. Just curious, what is the savings from all that, and where does that show up in your budget?
Yeah, so there's a savings in the full-time line of about 50,000. There's a saving in the full-time line, I believe, of about 80,000 because we're going down one full-time person there.
So 80K is the savings from closing the hours?
I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
So 80,000 is the savings from reducing the hours of the branch?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Spang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I noticed it looks like the repairs line item, it was cut from about 95,000 was spent this past year to 59,000 for next year.
Yeah,
Will it
it's,
cover repairs, okay?
will it cover the repairs?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's always our best guess. The buildings are getting older, they have a lot of challenges, and this was a particularly challenging year. We had 2 really big repairs this year. We had another major problem with an elevator, and the bookmobile garage door had to be replaced. That alone was about $20,000. So that line was originally funded at 50,000. I'm actually asking for a small increase in the line, which I think is warranted based on the issues that we're facing. But this was sort of a worse year than usual, I will say.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Counselor St. Hilaire.
Thank you. I didn't see the line item for the $50,000 difference. Can you point me to that?
So the full-time line is a little confusing this year because you should look at the original budget, the 2026 original budget, which was $1,102,000. And then this year, we're asking for $1,043,000. And there were a couple shifts because in 2026, we had an early retirement in July, and that was the librarian that was at their very top step. And then we were able to refill that position, but the librarian came in at a lower step. The librarians also get 3% increases annually and have certain librarians qualify for steps within that too. But that adjusted line for 2027 does represent one less full-time person.
Okay. I do have a question on page 111, line 53006, inspections for elevators, sprinkler systems, and so forth. Originally budgeted for this year at 5,000, it says it's zeroed out. So what happens with the inspections in terms of the line item that was carried there that is now zeroed out?
I'm not seeing that it's zeroed out. Are you seeing the 0%
Oh, I'm sorry.
change?
My mistake.
Yeah,
My mistake.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zero difference. I
0%,
apologize.
yeah.
Yeah, I just want to sort of make a general comment. You always have an outstanding presentation, in my opinion, and it's helped by the subject matter that you work with, because the libraries provide terrific service. And I appreciate the ROI evaluation as a way of sort of driving home the value, especially, as you say, in times when people have to cut back in their own personal life, the value of the library and its free services, whether it's meeting rooms, circulation, you name it, only goes up. So I take the point and thank you very much. Appreciate all of the librarians
Thank you.
in our city and all the services you provide.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
I have one more question for Ms. Babin before, and then I will definitely ask for your opinion, Brian. So I have one kind of big question, and this isn't saying I want to do anything like this, but just so I have an understanding going forward, because the budgeting problems for our community are accruing, basically, as we move forward. And something like the library, as well as almost all the community services, are all discretional spending, basically, in our budget, because they're not legally obligated for us to have and to fund. So, with that being said, how much does it cost to run the Farms branch of the library for 1 year?
Okay, yeah, so we can kind of break that down as, as in FY '27, we're planning on 1 full-time employee there, and then we're planning on still a set of part-time hours there. We have a collection budget for that building. We have some building costs that, do they go away if it closes? Do they not go away? But I think that's between, if you're looking at the FY '27 budget with 1 full-time person, it's probably about $150,000. If you're looking back at the FY '26 budget where we had 2 full-time people, then it's probably more like $230,000.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And Mr. Ailes?
Sure.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to add just a little bit of extra flavor and insight to Councilor St. Hilaire's question about the staff savings. The salary component, which we were talking about, is the $80,000. But it's important as we look through these budgets and we're talking about the FTEs that have been reduced in all the different departments, that it's not just the salary that we're talking about. There are many components to that. So if an individual has individual health care, that's an $11,000 savings in premium that the city then does not need to contribute to the health care premium. If they have a family plan, that's over $30,000 in addition to the salary that's saved by the city by not having to contribute to the health care premium. In addition to that, as you all know, because you have the budget in front of you, the pension liability line in the city is very large. I think, I don't have the number right in front of me, but I think it's like 15 million, maybe even 16 million. That represents the pension obligation for the current staffing levels of 320-ish FTEs, plus all the retirees that have already retired and come before us. So do the math. If you decrease that 300 and some odd FTEs by 1, you could reasonably expect a prorated savings in the future for that outstanding liability that we carry in our budget and will affect out years. In addition to that, we have OPEB liabilities for retiree health care that we avoid as well. So it's not just about the salary savings when we look at this stuff. And we also need to keep in mind and hearken back to when we were doing the financial forecast and talking about the real cost drivers of the city's budget overall. And we know that it's employee related, and that inevitably is because we're a service delivery organization and the majority of our expenses are contained within our employees' costs and benefits. And so as we try to right this ship, those are the costs that are going and increasing at a rate higher than the revenues are coming in. So these types of restructuring efforts are more than just the salaries. They're about righting the ship for the future budgets that are down the line. So I just wanted to add that because it's much more than just the salary component.
Thanks. Thank you. Great. Councilor Hausman?
Yeah, as we go through the budget at large, department by department, and consider the decisions we're going to make, as I mentioned on Tuesday, this budget doesn't address the structural deficit that the city has. It's a balanced budget, but it doesn't help us out for next year. So as we go through each department, I think it's helpful for us to weigh and consider what it might mean as we weigh the balance between services and cuts. And Councilor St. Hilaire, I know you have, we have sort of policy differences as we go through this, but it would be helpful for me as we think about the final vote the council takes if you would share your insight as to whether or not there are any cuts you would make in this budget or to address the structural deficit more generally.
Would you mind going second? Okay. Counselor St. Hilaire.
So I think this is a good conversation to have. This is exactly the conversation we should be having, which is, what are the cost-saving impacts? What is the ROI? We're proposing closing, it's a 36% reduction in closing of hours to save $80K for a service that hundreds, if not thousands of people cherish. To me, it's just the wrong savings area. There are, in my opinion, lots of things in our budget still that are not service-related that we can cut. Consultants, travel items, non-essential positions that I would cut before I cut the library. We've got City Hall expansion project I would cut way before I cut a library. You get thousands of people that go to the library, enjoy it. That's what we're here to do. So to me, it's a good conversation to have. I would just make different choices. That's all.
Thank you. And,
Yes.
yeah, and I hope you'll have an opportunity to share with us. I know you didn't have a chance to make it here on Tuesday when we heard from Chief O'Connor of the fire department. And I'm forgetting, who else do we have on Tuesday? We had planning, yeah. Planning, which has reduced its department budget by 20% this year. And I know Chief O'Connor indicated that he's sort of at the most minimal level he can staff without really having to probably pull a fire truck from service. If you have an opportunity at some point, if you have thoughts now that you want to share about what, if any, cuts you sort of see in those two departments, that would be helpful.
I'm going to keep this to the library right now, just
Yep,
for right
understood.
now, okay? And I'm going to go to Counselor Spang on that. So.
Thanks. Mine's actually a follow-up on the pension,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yes.
So you mentioned that with the reduction in full-time equivalents, there would be a reduction in the pension, in the amount that we pay to the retirement board. When will the city know what that reduction is?
It's not an easy answer to get your finger on the exact number because every 2 years, the actuarials do a revaluation of the outstanding liability. And so we're in the process of doing that now. So any FTE reductions would not be captured in the soon-to-be-published report from PERAC. It would be 2 years from now we would see any impact to that.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have anything more? Okay.
I
Counselor
just
St.
want to
Hilaire?
respond to Councilor Houseman's question. I think I did hear your comments from the other night, and to be honest with you, I thought Darlene Wynn was the star of the show. She's talking about how to make do with less. There are impacts. We're going to be able to do less, but we've been able to make it work. We've reduced consultant lines. Those are the things that you want somebody to do. As far as fire, public services, public safety is not an area that I would look to cut. I think that's an area that's understaffed. You've asked me for my suggestions. I think I've been pretty clear. $2 million from City Hall, eliminate consultants, eliminate unnecessary positions, eliminate travel. There's lots here that I'm going to be proposing along those lines, Councilor Houseman, that, in my opinion, do not cut services like this proposed cut to our budget here.
Is this going to be about the library? Do you have any? Oh, Counselor Milady.
Bring it back to the library. Ms. Babin, this is like when you were a kid and you're at your friend's house and like parents get in a fight and you're at the dinner table like, what the hell am I here for? Can you, Ms. Babin, say the name of the website that you referenced about the ROI? I think that was, I found it to be really interesting and I would like to share that with some of my colleagues.
So if you, it's actually on maine.gov, And if you Google library use calculator maine.gov, it should come right up for you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Babin? All right. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you very much.
And I think we have an overdue book at home. This is reminding me that we have a Hunger Game, the second book of the Hunger Games that Arlo has not finished yet. So I'm going to be renewing that
Well, we
later.
just want people to read. We want you to borrow the
That
book.
he is
so.
doing.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. So up next, we have Solicitor Oldmixon for the Solicitor's Office. While she's making her way up there, I'd like to mention that this piece of the budget pie is, your department is 0.30% of the overall budget. And it comes in this year at a proposed $540,000, and that is a reduction of $16,000, which is about a 3% deduction in the budget. So thank you for for being here tonight and for presenting us with your budget.
Great. Okay. Thank you for having me. For those who don't know me, my name is Beth Oldmixon. I'm the city solicitor. As you likely know, the solicitor's office is the legal counsel for the city. We currently have 3.5 full-time employees. It's myself, first assistant solicitor Dole, second assistant solicitor Mick, who is part-time, and our paralegal Jeff Norcross. Our team manages the risks and safeguards the city's interest. We provide legal advice and guidance and represent all city officials and employees excuse me, in connection with their performance of official duties for the city and its residents. The city has over 20 departments, over 40 boards and commissions. We have an airport, a golf course, an active harbor, public beaches, many parks such as Lynch Park. All of these make Beverly unique and keep the solicitor's office busy. Just on routine matters that come before us from all of those departments, boards, and commissions. As in addition, there are a lot of special projects within the city that kind of are kind of term for those special for other projects outside of the routine matters. Those special projects are things like building the new McPherson Youth Center, the water meter replacement program, accepting previously unaccepted ways. So those are all kind of things that we have the routine matters that keep us kind of going along on a daily basis, and then the special projects that come and go. Just to kind of go over some of the routine matters, some examples, the Board of Health has a lot of compliance issues with respect to poultries, nicotine sales, housing code violations. The building inspector's office also has zoning enforcement that they'll call us about, both for use and construction of structures. The Council on Aging often has questions about use of their space. The CPC, the Community Preservation Commission, the Historic District Commission, and even the City Council often asks for opinions regarding their legal authority. Constituent Services often comes in and asks questions that stem from resident inquiries, sometimes with respect to those unaccepted ways, some parking complaints and what can be done with people parking on city streets, inquiries into whether or not a tree is a city tree or a private tree and who can do what with those trees. The solicitor's office also handles all claims. So back to the trees, if a tree falls on a fence during a storm, if it's a city tree, who's responsible for repairing the fence, those initial complaints will come into the clerk's office and then they get sent to the solicitor's office. And then our paralegal, Jeff Norcross, often does a lot of the kind of the boots on the ground work for that, to do some research and work with our insurance company. We also handle a lot of public records responses. A lot of departments do their own public records response, but if it kind of raises some questions about what should and shouldn't be released to the public, they'll ask our office to help with that response. Also, conflict of interest inquiries come through our office, as well as open meeting law questions. In 2027, there are two kind of big things on the horizon. As you've heard, all the city-side collective bargaining agreements will be up for renewal. So likely the end of calendar year 26, beginning calendar year 27, we'll start the renewal, or the negotiating process for the renewal of those. First Assistant Solicitor Dole will be handling the primary load of the work for that. We do, however, also have outside counsel advise us on those agreements. And then also, it's a year ending in 7, so by city charter, it is time for ordinance review again, believe it or not. So we'll be working on that as well. You will see in the budget that the outside counsel budget line has been proposed to be slightly increased from $55,000 to $70,000. That's in anticipation of the collective bargaining negotiation that will be happening. In addition, the budget line for the assistant solicitors line has been reduced. We previously had 2 full-time assistants. It's now 1.5 full-time assistants. So we had 3 full-time attorneys, now we're down to 2.5 full-time attorneys. And I think that is basically all I was needed to say to lead us into any questions that anyone might have.
Well, I'll go to Counselor Hausman first. Yes, Counselor Hausman.
Thank you, Solicitor. In our budget book, your budget takes up 1 and a small slice of pages out of this entire book. I just want to compliment you and your office on being responsive. I found you to be terrifically helpful, as you mentioned. City councilors reach out to you. I certainly have had occasion to do that with you. So I want to sort of publicly acknowledge that, your responsiveness and helpfulness as we sort of go through and have questions. I don't really have any particular questions about your budget, given the size of your department, but certainly the work that your department does is, speaking as a lawyer, is particularly important. So thank you very much. I'll leave it at that. Other than asking my question for every department from my colleague, whether there are any cuts that he would, in this case, suggest for this department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that, and I will be sure to share that with everyone in the office.
Counselor Sonia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll echo Councilor Hausman's compliments to you, Solicitor. It's not always the answer you want to get back, but it is an answer, and it's usually pretty prompt.
As we start in the evening, so
Exactly.
yes. Yep.
Exactly. So it is appreciated. Again, maybe it's just like new guy questions, but let me make sure I'm on the right page. Yeah, so you mentioned like trees falling down and things like that. How often, in that litigation line item, how often are you guys like revising that like each year? So obviously last year you budgeted just under or at 50, then revised down a bit, then actually it's projected upward. So how often does that happen, and what's usually like, what's the typical that's sort of driving those type of numbers?
Sure, so just to be clear, if there is a claim paid out for the tree on the fence, that doesn't come from this line.
Oh, okay, good.
I don't know. Mr. Ailes would be able to be more specific about where those come from. We use the litigation line if we have needs of, when we have to file a complaint, then it costs money. We have to file with the court, so we use it for that. If we have a process service that we need to do, sometimes if we have to hire the sheriff's office for some type of work, that comes out of that line. And so I believe that line previously, in FY '24 and '25, that line was 135, and it was reduced to 50 in FY '26. And the litigation line is proposed to stay the same. but the outside counsel line, which is where we hire expert counsel for specific matters, that's the one that we've increased, or we're proposing to increase a little bit because of the collective bargaining agreements that are coming up.
Gotcha. Just one more question, if I may, or just point, really. You're obviously making do with less, and we're talking about that a lot as a body here. In your presentation, you talked just about the significant number of boards and commissions and just the host of responsibilities you all have, a lot of which, you know, could on the back end, if something falls through the cracks or something, which I know you're all exceptional professionals, but I guess the question is, do you feel like you have the resources to make that, you know, less likely? Because again, things on the back end might sort of cost money, and is it better to make sure you have what you need up front versus letting the ball go into the net, I guess, in a bad way?
So, of course, it would be nice to have 3 full-time attorneys. However, we all have to be a team player here, right? And we all need to help out in any way we can to solve this budget year. So we were very lucky to, when we were filling the part-time position, that Ms. Mick was able to take on a part-time position. And she's been a great addition to our office. And so between myself, Assistant Solicitor Dole, and Assistant Solicitor Mick, as well as, most importantly, our paralegal, Jeff Norcross, we've really been working together great, and we each have our strengths that we can kind of pull on each other to help. And it's really just a matter of prioritizing what comes in. There may be a lengthier time for some responses than perhaps what people had seen in the past, few years before that. But we look at when something comes in that needs to be addressed. We look at it. We decide who has the most expertise in that area in our office. If somebody's worked on something similar before or with a party before, and then just we kind of like everybody has to do in any of their jobs is prioritize it. What needs the most attention immediately? What can wait? And hopefully get to what can wait before it becomes an emergency. But it's just, that's the nature of working in any law office.
Gotcha. Thank you. And I'll just say one more time, thank you. Thank you for the work you all are doing on, with such a small team. It's a lot, and it's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor St. Hilaire?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was looking on page 31 at the outside counsel line. As noted before, this fluctuates every year, and, just thinking about use of high-priced outside firms, how much of that 70K is specified already, and how much is just sort of based on what you think might come in?
Oh, you mean what work we think, right?
Yeah, so the 70K, you mentioned the contract renewal process, the ordinance review. Like, how much of that is dedicated to the ordinance review? How much is dedicated to the...
None would be dedicated to ordinance review. That would all be in-house. The collective bargain, I would anticipate a decent amount of that would be collective bargaining. We also, let's see, in years past, we've used it for outside counsel for assistance with the 115 kV line. We've used it for an election recount, and we've used it for some airport property lease concerns that we've had. So.
Just, I guess in follow-up in your comments about the staffing line, you've sort of referenced some of the trade-offs, longer response times perhaps, et cetera. What would be the consequences of reducing this line potentially?
Right, it would be, if we were to further reduce it, it would be even longer response times, likely.
Not the staff line, the council, the outside council line.
Oh, the outside counsel line?
So the one, the recount, that's a special circumstance. We could fund that some other way, could we not? If something like that came up.
I don't know how you would fund it a different way. If we need to hire outside counsel for a recount.
So how much of the budget is dedicated to a recount, potential recount?
None. So the outside counsel line is there, so when we need to hire an outside counsel, we have somebody.
But we
have-
could put 500,000 there, right? And I guess, what is this number based on? Because it's gone from 55 to 70. In the past, it's been higher, it's been lower.
So, yeah, in FY '24 and '25, it was $66,300. And then in FY '26, it went down to 55. And we're proposing a slight increase for FY '27.
I guess, and I'm trying to understand why.
Because we anticipate having to negotiate, I don't know, how many collective bargaining agreements? Just 3? For
How much of
FY
that
27.
70K do you think would be used for that?
I don't know how much of the 70K, but I would, I don't know how much.
Thank you.
Counselor Housen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just following up, on the last page, 32, the only line item there, litigation. So in FY '26, you were budgeted at 50,000. Your actual was 78,000. Am I correct in thinking that that bump was related to the teacher strike?
No.
And outside counsel for that?
No, we did not, the
Because
city
that was
side
the
did not
school
pay.
side. So
Right,
what?
that was paid by the
So
school
what
side.
represented in the actual expense, that extra 38,000,
You know, there were-
$28,000?
There were a few things, for a while, we were operating as just a 2-attorney office. And so there were a couple things that we hired outside counsel to assist us with, because we only had 2 attorneys. And so my memory is that some of the money was transferred from the assistant line to the litigation line.
Okay. But as you
Yeah, an
noted,
internal transfer.
it's budgeted for the same
Yeah.
amount. So that would presumably be a non-reoccurring additional expense
Right.
anticipated, is that correct?
Could you just repeat that? I couldn't quite hear.
So is it fair to say that we could characterize that as a non-reoccurring? And there was it was a one-time kind of situation where you had to go to outside counsel because of a decrease in staffing, which has since been refilled, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify on that, I'm noticing that the 2026 actual is almost 100,000 less than the budgeted for 2026 for personnel. So I think that's where we're seeing the savings from that 100,000 from that line item has moved from personnel into, back from outside counsel into
Yeah,
personnel.
Assistant Solicitor Mick joined us, I believe, right after the new year. So we went almost 6 months as a 2-attorney office.
Right. Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any other? I think that's it. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And with that, we can have Chief LaLasher, please, with the police department. And for those following along at home, for what piece of the pie this is the police and animal control part of the budget is about 6.2% of the overall budget. And this is, the bottom line number for this is, for the FY '27 budget, is $11,228,370. All right, with that,
Thank
Chief
you, Madam
LaLasher.
Chair, members of the council. It's always an honor to represent the men and women of the Beverly Police Department. It'll be fairly short because I'm assuming that we'll be spending some time on the actual budget. But again, we are a 24/7, 365 operation. If someone calls out sick, we have to replace that person. We can't let the position go vacant. In 2025, we had approximately 29,500 calls for service. We anticipate about a 2,000 to 3,000 call for service increase this year based on the numbers so far. In most jurisdictions, the FBI recommends about 2.5 officers per 1,000. That would give us about 85 to 90 officers. We have 74. So already we're well behind what we should have in staffing for a city this size. So far, I mean, in this fiscal year, unfortunately, we've investigated one homicide, one attempted homicide with 2 serious shootings, a major home invasion that just occurred, which our office has solved every one of those cases fairly quickly. They're extremely talented individuals. There's been some increases in our budget because of, or our requirements because of POST. POST is an unfunded state mandate for training. They mandated all these things on us, but there's no more money coming to the city to help train their officers, which they have to have or they lose their certifications. This is something that we cannot bypass. In the last 2 years, or the last year's budget, we received no cruisers in the budget. They were pulled into capital, but we haven't received any. I don't know what's going to happen this year, but I see a decrease in the maintenance line. By running cars 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then decreasing the fleet and then decreasing the maintenance line, I'm anticipating some severe shortages there. Even though the overtime line is increased, as you see the actuals, we're well up over $1 million in overtime. We always have officers out injured. Officers go out on maternity, paternity leave, and again, those positions have to be filled. We have minimum staffing that we have to take care of. And in most shifts right now, we do not have a cruiser in every ward of the city. There's usually 1 or 2 cruisers covering 2 different wards, which again, is a risk to the public and something that is unfortunate, but it's something that we are mandated to do, and we do our best with the budget we receive. We have a lot of new officers. Having less supervisors are going to impact us also. The chances of increased liability could happen with less supervision. Again, it's a younger force. We've been hiring a lot of young officers over the past few years. And again, I feel that shorting our leadership could be an issue. We always run short, and we always come within our budget. Any of the councils have been on here for a while know that we do not come back to the council in March looking for more money. We make do with what we get. I think 1 year we had to come back, and maybe the last 5 because of some funding mandates that came up. We work within our budget, so if we get a sufficient budget, myself, Captain Rousseau, and the staff make sure we take every penny spent, every dollar goes to where it needs to be done, and we take care of the citizens of Beverly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I had just 2 quick staffing questions. How many full-time equivalents does the police department have?
Full staff, 74 right now.
74? And
Including
was there
myself.
a reduction this
There's
year?
a recommended reduction of 1 sergeant. We have some retirements coming up mid-year.
Okay.
There's a recommendation for 1 sergeant reduction and 1 patrol reduction through attrition. Again, we're already, in my opinion, 10 officers behind, and to lose 2 more is just devastating. I know that the city's struggling, and we'll make do with what we have. It just, by losing more people means more overtime, more costs coming up, because we have to cover the streets.
Right.
And when a homicide comes in, we can't just say, well, do it tomorrow because I don't have the manpower to do it.
And from a little of my back-of-the-envelope math, it looks like about 93% of the budget is personnel cost and staffing?
I think in just about everybody's budget, you know,
Right.
again, we have to run mandatory shifts. The offices we have, most budgets in the city are personnel costs.
Okay. All right, that's the questions.
And
that I
that's
have.
all, I'm sorry, that also includes my civilian staff also, that runs the records department, our clerks, payroll clerks, and my staff.
Okay. Councilor Helson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Chief LeLacheur. You've highlighted, I guess, 2 particular items that you're behind the FBI recommended staffing levels for this population in Beverly. And no new cruisers were replaced this fiscal year, and none are slated in this budget to be replaced for next fiscal year.
I mean, I'm working with Mr. Ailes and the mayor about that. I mean, I'm hoping we get some in the fleet. But again, they're very specialized vehicles. When I get them delivered, once I get them delivered, which may take a month, it's going to take 2 to 3 months for them to be outfitted because there's only so many outfitters.
Sure.
So we'll be another 3 to 4 months. If I got 3 today, they wouldn't be in service for, say, 5 to 6 months.
My question is, other than those 2 items of concern, are there any other particular items of concern that you would highlight for our consideration?
Well, again, I think that, you know, I know we're gonna spend over our overtime budget, and we'll have to take money from somewhere else in the budget, whether we have to reduce equipment in other areas, if we have to cut back on other things. We're over $1 million this year already. We're 1.2 as of the last print, I'm sorry, 1.1 of the last printing, and we still have 2 weeks to go with a holiday. So, I mean, we're over our overtime, but again, we make it work. Captain Rousseau, Captain Devlin, Captain Sanjay, we all work together with the rest of the staff to make sure we come within our budget. But something has to bend to get to that point.
Yeah, yeah. Madam Chair, I have would like to hear from Mr. Perry on the police department budget at a point where you
Okay.
would like to hear from him.
And then we can hear from Mr. Perry, and then I will go to other counselors' questions. We can bring you back up. Okay. Mr. Perry?
Thank you, Chief.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. Just a couple comments similar to what happened the other night with the fire department. First off, the entire police budget is only going up 1.2%. It's certainly less than we're seeing other departments going up. So obviously, given the constraints of Proposition 2.5, I commend the administration and the chief for, you know, giving us a budget that stays within the confines of our limited revenues here, so I would state that. With regard to the overtime, I agree with the chief, and it's similar in nature to what we've observed at the fire department. The $930,000, in my opinion, is not sufficient enough to get through the next fiscal year. As the chief indicated, he's up to $1.1 million. I can share with you that in FY26, the chief has had to transfer $306,230 from other line items into his overtime just to make ends meet. He has approximately $53,000 left. I believe he'll be okay at the end of the fiscal year in his overtime count to get there. And then in FY25, he had to transfer $333,000 in the overtime account from other line items. I did research, like I did, Councilor Sonia brought up my letter in the fire department. I did go back several years, back in just one minor, a little more than minor, but 2023, he was short on janitorial expenses, not overtime, with the new police station, so we had to find $40,000. And then back in May of '24, we were short $127,400 in the police career incentive line item that we had to make up. But he is correct, made up the difference in his overtime account by transferring from other line items. So in my view, he's done a pretty good job. I would echo another thought, at least from having a prior experience in his career as well as being a bean counter. There are certain things that you don't deal with when it comes to money. Homicide is probably the most important thing. I mean, everything stops. You don't worry about time and a half. There are certain incidents in the career of law enforcement that you just got to do. It's just the way it is. You have to protect the citizenry of the community. The other thing I share with you, which is really virtually impossible for any police chief to figure out, is court time. I mean, you can't predict exactly how many arrests you're going to make. They have zero capacity in the court system. They could be in there for an hour and a half, or they could be in there for literally days waiting to testify, and we have to pay the officers. So it's complicated. And he's right, it's a 24/7 operation, which when an officer's out sick or on injured or something like that, not only are you paying the salary of the injured or the sick officer, you're paying time and a half. So just to fill that one slot, in reality is 2.5 times the cost of a police officer. So the bottom line to it is, no, in my view, there's not enough overtime, but hopefully he'll be able to live with it like he has in the last several years.
Counselor Spang.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I guess I would share the concerns about the overtime, especially where it looked like some of the other items that may have been more discretionary have been cut as well in this budget. So if there's anything we can do to help with that. But I had a question, how long has the department had 9 sergeants? Do you know, if you know?
So probably all the 12 and a half years I've been here.
Okay. And
We may have added one.
and then what kind of impacts will it have to go down to 8? Because I know you mentioned you still have to fill the shifts and things like that.
And if I may back up a little, Council, the officers and the command staff have come to us, and we've sat down. We're gonna take some plans over the summer by doing some staffing levels. We anticipate a savings in overtime over the summer, a significant savings if our plan works out, which is gonna bring us through the entire fiscal year. So that's how these officers are working. They're coming up with suggestions for us to work into the budget to cut the overtime so that we can do other things. But again, if we have to cut a sergeant, it means we have to double up something else. And if we double up something else, again, it reduces city services. If I have to take, and one example I've said is if I have to take the traffic sergeant and the community impact sergeant, put them together, that means the homeless aren't being treated 1 day or 2 days, road races aren't being scheduled 2 or 3 days, detours and things like that have to be set up, get delayed. They are working 40 hours a week on all those type of projects. And if you take one away, something has to suffer. I'll work with the mayor, with Mr. Ailes. We may come up with some other ways of doing things. We were down an officer the entire fiscal year from an injury, and we made things work. If we had tried out a position, we know we're fine there. If we have to do something else to save money without reducing staff, we'll do so. We'll find a way to do it.
And I just had one other question, if I may.
Yes.
It looked like, it looked like the fuel and oil line is below what you spent this past year with the rising cost of fuel and things like that. Is that something that you're also watching for?
We will. If you have to remember, for a majority of the fiscal year, gas was very cheap. It's only gone up at the end of the fiscal year. So we saw an immense savings there. But again, we're finding now, and the captain's gone through some cruises, we have a lot of repairs that have to be made. Air conditioning, transmissions, tires, brakes. These cars run, like they literally idle almost 24 hours a day, some of them. And just the wear and tear on tires, brakes, oil changes weekly, the costs do add up. And unfortunately, when you travel as many miles as we do, we have some fender benders and things of that effect that we have to take care of also.
Thank
We
you.
want a professional fleet out there.
Thank you, Chief.
Right. Counselor St. Hilaire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief, and thank you to your department. Just want to say, I don't think this is an area we should be cutting either. Public safety is a top priority for me. And just to point out, we're including funding for constituent services directors, DEI directors, travel expenses to conferences out of state, but we're cutting police patrolmen and sergeants. We got $2 million to renovate this beautiful building, but we're cutting patrolmen. That doesn't seem to be the values that I support. In terms of the budget, though, Chief, we received a letter from the Beverly Police Superior Officers and Police Benevolent Association related to the dispatch center. Would love to get your thoughts on what's going on there and what we should do.
Well, again, you're getting into policy issues that are out of my, out of my purview. The mayor takes care of departments' overall staffing and levels and things to that effect. Could there be some savings brought there? Those are things myself and Chief O'Connor work on, and we work directly with the mayor. We have meetings with him, but I really can't talk about specific union issues, because a lot of it is union-based.
Specifically, there's a department head position. If we were to cut that position, how would that unit function?
That's something that would have to be a sit-down with all the bureaus and the departments and come up with a solution. Again, that's something that's not in my...
Do you know how long that position has been in place?
Totally about 3.5 years, I believe.
Thank you.
If I'm not 3.5, Cap, 2.5.
All right, Counselor St. Hilaire, did you, or not, I'm sorry, Counselor Houseman. You've both been, I've been calling on you both so often that I'm sorry.
Yeah, Chief, following up on Counselor Spang's, on your reply to Counselor Spang on fuel costs, how many electric vehicles does the police department have in use as cruisers or otherwise?
So there are 2 fully electric vehicles. One is operated by the court prosecutor, and another one is driven by a detective. And then we have well, technically, I guess it's a full electric, but has an engine backup as a BMW i3 that was a donated vehicle that we still operate as kind of a curry vehicle type. So we do have 3, actually.
Okay, and so when you refer to cars that are idling 24/7, does not include those vehicles?
I'm sorry?
The cruisers, the cars, the vehicles you have that are operating 24/7 do not include those electric vehicles, because they are sort of more specifically designated other than
Well,
standard
but
cruisers?
actually, they do, because like right now in this heat, the batteries are running, the air conditioners, they run all the time. Heaters are on all winter when they're parked and not running. The air conditioners on all summer when they're parked and not running. They're always constantly keeping the batteries at a certain temperature. They run 24 hours a day.
I see, and not to
Now,
put-
regardless, they may be plugged in, recharging during the day shifts, but they technically do run all the time.
Yeah, I guess what I was really trying to figure out is sort of the fuel costs, fuel savings costs, to the degree that they would be used otherwise by an internal combustion engine car for that purpose. You're saving fuel in that regard. And those vehicles are not, I gather, are not getting the same kind of day-to-day wear that a internal combustion engine in a cruiser is getting, correct?
Well, my understanding is that there's been a lot of studies done on this. You go through brakes about twice as fast, you go through tires twice as fast because of the increased weights. Nobody that I know of runs an electric vehicle 24 hours a day as a patrol car because they have to charge 8 to 10 hours a day, so they're out of the fleet that much. So as a full-time frontline police car, really no company has come up with a car that is able to do that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was just trying to get a handle on
Yeah, I know that Ford...
impact of fuel and
This
so
kind of aside, Ford did a study and they compared their Lightning pickup, which is electric, their 150 regular pickup, and a hybrid, and technically the gas vehicle actually was more economical.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve.
One other twist I can throw in there too before this is I know the animal control budget's not on here. I don't know if you want to schedule that further, but I can tell you that our animal control officer is leaving for another position. He's going up to police department on the North Shore as a full-time patrolman. So I'm going to have an opening there, and we're going to have to figure out how we're going to work that out internally.
Okay, thank you for, Counselor Sonia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chief. Yeah, it has obviously been like a headline-generating year, in statewide media cases, and I think I speak for everyone on this dais and probably most of the folks in Beverly that I think your department's response to those incidents and crimes has been exceptional. So thank you. I do want to return just to the question of overtime, and I admire your commitment to sort of coloring within the lines of your budget. But it is, much like the fire department, a rough and tumble position. So in addition to physical health, mental health challenges that may arise for an officer, you mentioned also sort of like personal life things that could come up, maternity, paternity, et cetera. When you think about the potential, as Mr. Perry kind of indicated, there's at least a reasonable chance that this number won't be enough. Going into the year, do you kind of consider where could we draw from? Is there a way for us to know, where you might pull, coverage for that line item, from which line items you might do that?
Yeah, and again, as I said, Captain Russo and I start doing that probably in February, anticipating, this meeting. And again, both the superiors and patrolmen have come forward with some ideas through the summer that we're pretty sure we're going to see significant overtime savings, which may in fact get us to the $900,000 mark. But if we go over it, we do have the ability in other parts of the budget to move some money around and take care of lines.
Okay, thank you. And just one more question, Madam Chair, if that's all right. It's line item 12102, which is contractual support maintenance of computer software and systems, originally budgeted at 85. It looks like that will get up to 115, a $30,000 increase on that line item. And it's budgeted for 70,000 this year. Can you just sort of walk us through what instigated that jump in that line item and what your request pays for this year? So that's the bottom, sorry, Chief, that's the bottom of page 50.
I'm sorry, which page?
50?
So we actually, at probably the end of that year, we ended up having a changeover in our records management system. We were running 2 records management systems. The changeover was made. So what happened was we had to pay both the service agreements on those, and then we've reduced down to 1 system now. Anything else in that, Cap?
So we've added a lot of technology with the new station. So we have a lot of contracts. So we had to move money from different line items into computer maintenance. Because of the new station, we have a key box system, for example, that records when the keys get checked out, checked in for cruises. That's a $3,500 annual contract. With the old station, we had an old key box with a key. So that was an add-on this year. All our contracts, like our fingerprint machine, that has a contract, and that increases every year, so that's gone up. We've added, to make it easier for people to come in and get firearms licenses, we've added a portable machine up front, so now we're paying for that additional contract. There's training. We have the training system, we play out of training. But we also, like the chief said, we did have overlap with computer systems. Computer maintenance is a little bit of a misnomer. Anything that has any type of technology, we pay out of there. So when our radars for traffic comes out of computer maintenance. So as we increase and upgrade radars, that comes out of there, any maintenance for that. So there's a lot of different items that come out of computer maintenance, and there are a couple other things, I don't have the specifics in front of me, but with the new building and new technologies within the building that we've had to contract for, that's caused that to go up.
Thank you for that insight. Sorry, just one more. I'm sure your favorite topic, Chief, would flock cameras be part of that line item or something else?
No, they come out of a different federal and state seizure line. I believe we pay that out of.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
We actually just changed that literally today. So, yeah, to catch us up to date.
I think,
So what we did was to catch us up to date for what we owe on the flock camera systems, because we overlapped with our payments because of what's been going on with the discussions about flock. So that was going to come out of one of our seizure lines on the state seizure line from drug seizures and whatnot. And what we did was instead we decided to move it out of computer maintenance system this period. So that's where we took the money this year. We don't know where we're going to be next year, so that's probably where we'll come from next year.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And we are lucky to get a lot of state and federal grants to take care of other items, the traffic grants and things of that, you know.
If I can add one more, we also, we've started a drone program primarily for search and rescue. Missing children, autistic children, people, suicidal, anyone in need or in danger, elderly, things like that. So batteries for the drones, repairs for the drones. There's been some, sometimes the drones crash during training, things like that. That's also been an add-on as well. That's what's boosted that as well.
Counselor Milady?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chief, for being here tonight. So mine's a two-part question. The first question is for you. Could you give us an idea of a rough estimate about the cost of a cruiser including with the maintenance? And then my follow-up question is either for Mr. Ailes or Mr. Perry. Would purchasing new cruisers be considered an example of good debt, or would that be an example where it would not be good debt because it need to be updated? Because I guess it could be considered a one-time cost, or maybe not.
So I can talk cost first, and then I can, Mr. Perry, talk on that. Right now, I believe the state bid on what we're currently using in the fleet or similar vehicles are about $48,000. State bid is actually pretty low for those type of vehicles. Then there's an additional $25,000 to $30,000 in added equipment between cages, radios, light bars, boxes for the back to secure equipment, the sirens, everything. It's about 25, and then it's installation costs. I mean, you know, the actual fee to install is about 30,000 per. The one thing we do see, though, is with a newer fleet, a lot of that maintenance work is under warranty. And that's one of the things we're talking about now. We're getting out of warranty on a lot of our vehicles. We lose a transmission in a warranty vehicle, it's just time out of service. If we lose it in a non-warranted vehicle, it's, you know, $10,000, $15,000. Sorry, I don't know if you want to talk on that.
Thank you, Counselor. A couple thoughts. We've had some lengthy conversation about that very issue. Historically, the city has done one of two things. They've funded it within the budget itself, and not with, certainly not with debt. And, as I've got on my records here, back in May of 2024, we transferred from unexpended line items, and we did purchase a cruiser back then, back at that period of time. It was $47,500. I'm sure it's more than that today. If you look at your capital expenditure report, the administration has never included cruises in that. I would agree with that in general, because the cruises and the chief and the cap could speak better than I, as they told you. It's a 24/7 thing. They're going constantly. They probably last 12, 18 months, and they kind of, you know, wash out because they just get so many. I think it's like $100,000 a year. Wouldn't surprise me. They put on these cruises. So, you know, a capital asset, in my view anyways, is 3 or more years, and cruises don't meet that standard. So historically, to answer your question, we never have done debt. I would certainly advise strongly against that. We debated free cash. I know the mayor talked a little bit about it. I was really not in favor of that, but the bottom line to it, in the past, we've taken it either in the operational budget or from unexpended line items that we've transferred from one line item to the other. Okay?
And also, one last thing on cruisers, we don't use it and throw it away. We rotate them down. So your frontline cruisers are the newer ones, because they're the ones responding, emergency driving. Then after a time, they go down to detective staff, and we run them out 5 or 6, 7 years before actually surplusing them.
Councilor Hausman, did you have another question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Chief, how long has the new police station been available to the police department?
We moved in August of '21.
21, so 5 years, roughly. Maybe that's a good period of time to sort of look back, compare the former police station that you had to work with and the current one that you have. And I wonder if you could just reflect on the impact, efficiency, morale, ability to do the work when you compare the old building to what you have to work with now.
Well, we haven't had this discussion in a while, so we went from 9,000 square feet to about 30 to 35,000 square feet, usable space. We have parking. We have hot water, which we didn't have. We have better HVAC systems. We had heat in the summer and cold in the winter. The cell block was technically condemned by the state. We would fail our inspections every year. It's night and day. Morale-wise, 100% better. The space they have, the equipment they have now. And one aspect about that, and I always say this, is in an older building, you'd walk in and there'd be a paper towel on the floor, there'd be something broken, and it kind of got ignored. I walk through this building 5 years later, I don't see a scratch in the walls we don't fix or try to quickly. There's nothing on the floors. The officers take tremendous care of it because they feel it's theirs, this generation.
So fair to say the expense, the capital expense that was involved in making those kind of improvements has been dramatic?
Oh, absolutely. We were in 3 buildings before. We weren't even all working in the same building. So just simple things like that. To do an investigation, we were split all over the place. We had the building at the airport, we had the HUD building for our community impact unit, and then, the main station here. And again, like I said, just nobody could find this building. They didn't know where the sidewalk was down at the front door. We'd have people bang on the back door all the time trying to get in. It's night and day. It really is night and day. And we've become a model. Chiefs from all over Massachusetts come down and look at our building when they're looking to build new buildings.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that your departments were sort of scattered, and now they're together. I guess the reason I asked the question, other than for its own sake, which I think is important, is the mayor has control at this point over the city hall renovation. The city council does not have control over the city council, whether or not the city hall is renovated. But the kinds of things that you're talking about and identifying in terms of changes to efficiency, to morale, even something as simple as HVAC system and the impact that has on people who work in the building is notable. Scattered departments throughout the city and now are together. I think it's worth reflecting on the kind of comparisons that are available between the capital expenditure project for the police department and the city hall renovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have the Parks and Rec Department. Mr. Doig.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for having me in. Just a few brief highlights about our department. Many of you know we staff 12 parks around the city free every summer with a couple park instructors, some CITs, and it's a tremendously successful program. It has been since I was a kid in Beverly. This year, we're hoping to do a program up at Anchor Point that they would fund through us, just like we do at Apple Village. Apple Village pays for us to be there, but they enjoy having us there, and the kids love it. So we still will be staffing 12 or 13 parks. We do our day camps at Lynch Park. We have over 20 concerts every year. And since I've been there 23 years now, it's my 24th summer, we have not had a budget to run concerts. We've had to get some sponsorships. We've had to scrape together money from different sources. This year, we have a sponsorship for the full concert series, and that's going to save us about $15,000. So, again, John Padall and Adrian and Gene Belanger in my office are constantly working to look at things like that and how we can save money and give back to the community. Some of the things we're doing, again, I've mentioned before the AED program. Our goal initially was to put 39 AEDs in 37 parks around the city. To date, we've been able to purchase over 30, probably about 32, 33 AEDs, so we're getting very close. A lot of those were purchased with grants from the David Lynch trustees and other sources, some private donations. So the city has invested almost $75,000. The total cost has been about $100,000. But again, the city's investment has been through the Lynch trustees and other grants that we've been able to get together. And so that's been an amazing program. A lot of people felt that it would be difficult to keep them from being vandalized or stolen. They've been out there for a couple of years now, and to date, we haven't had one vandalized or stolen. So, so that's been great news. Since CPC or CPA Act was finalized in 2014, I've been able to do 31 projects with the CPC, and I don't have a total on what the dollar figure is, but we've been able to leverage that money with money from the Lynch trustees for park grants to purchase Camp Paradise, to do several playground renovations within the city. And so, again, that alone was The park grants is about $1.8 million. The CPC grants, I would say, is, close to that with the 31 different projects. So again, we're always looking at how we can do more with less. If you look at our budget, our total, general budget is $445,000. Of that, $271,000 is for full-time staff. Again, there's only 4 of us who work full-time, and as of FY '27, 1.75 of those will be paid for out of the enterprise fund. So, but a big part of the 271,000 is our part-time employees. In the summer, we hire 80 kids to work as park instructors, camp counselors, rangers, lifeguards, and so forth around the park, around the city. And on the enterprise side, that's about $330,000. And on the general budget side, it's about $150,000. So again, it sounds like a lot of money that we're paying for staff members, and it is, but if we didn't have that money, we couldn't do the 12 free park programs around the city. We couldn't do a lot of what we do today. So again, we're proud of that we make it work with the limited funding that we have. I know our general budget is probably one of the lowest ones. And again, I think we get a lot of bang for the buck on that. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else specific. So, with that, I'm open to questions from anybody about what we do at the rec.
Thank you, Mr. Doig. And for you are 0.25% of the overall budget. So you're close. It's not a huge budget, but, and so you said there's 4 full-time employees?
Yes, we used to have 5, and we lost a full-time position in 2024. A person left and was not replaced, and so that has continued and will probably continue for quite some time. And I do want to point out that, like I said, we have 37 parks in the city. That person was our facilities coordinator, and it's difficult to manage 37 parks, including 5 buildings, without somebody whose job it is to go around and check the facilities, or if somebody reports a problem, to go look. Because now, instead of somebody dedicated for that task, it's usually John Padol or I who have to drive out and look at, what the issues are, coordinate with DPW or DPS to get repairs done, things like that. So, again, we are surviving with 4 people, but it's been very difficult. It has added a lot to the daily tasks that we have to do in terms of keeping up with all the facilities.
And one other question before I open it up to the rest of the council. This is, I understand it's a small budget and you run lean, but I did notice there was an increase in this budget of about $16,000, and almost all of that is in the utilities. Would you be able to speak to, it says various utility bills for Aubert. This is on page 114 in our budget book. The bathroom.
Oh, the ones we're going to be doing, okay. So yeah, that was added for the bathrooms that we're putting at the Beverly High School.
Okay.
We've started using a restroom trailer last fall, and because people didn't want to be using porta potties. So we did it in the fall for 3 months. We did it this spring for a month, and we plan on doing it for 3 months in the fall, and then a couple months or more in the spring of next year. The goal, I believe, is to have a group do some private fundraising to be able to build permanent bathrooms on that site. When we put the stands and the lights in, everybody loves playing night games down there, and everybody from the little kids to the high school kids. But bathrooms are a problem. They either have to walk a long distance to get to the porta potties.
And they're dark.
The turf is tough to get back and forth. So again, that's been what we're doing. So I guess that was added in for that particular reason. So.
Okay, so that's probably, we're foreseeing that hopefully in future budget years, it won't be for the rental of them, and hopefully we can capitalize that properly.
Yeah, the goal is to have that go away and have permanent bathrooms.
Okay, thank you. Scott, do you have a question?
Good evening, Mr. Doig. It's a pleasure to see you. I guess my question is, I have 2 sort of big picture questions, if you will. The first is, could you describe the services your department provides in the off-season, if you want to call it, winter, let's say, compared to, spring, summer, and fall, when there's more activity going on, presumably?
Sure. We do all kinds of adult programs. We have everything from arts and crafts programs, financial planning, how to, afford your kids' college education. We have a cornhole league now that has become very successful over the years. We run it at Camp Paradise, which is the only real indoor space that we have. So the ceilings are barely tall enough to do it, but so we do things like that. But again, we have, every week we have classes going on at the senior center that are adult enrichment programs. We do children's programs like babysitting classes, all kinds of wellness classes, things like that. We used to and will run again, middle school strength and conditioning class for kids at the high school, and that, takes a couple staff members to run. So we're not as busy from a programming standpoint in the winter, but we also do most of our planning at that time. That's when we're looking for, great staff members, and that's when we're looking for, new programs to run, things like that, and getting the word out about the things that we do. Again, having Adrienne on our staff, she's done an amazing job with the new brochures that we're publishing. If you haven't seen them, she's really talented. And we used to do a 45-page brochure that Jocelyn Ruel-Kurska put together, and that was great. But again, the cost was huge to print it and to mail it, so we have reduced that down to a regular 4-page brochure. So that's the type of thing we're doing throughout the winter months to get ready for the spring and summer. But we do programming all year round as much as we can with the space we have. And if somebody comes to us with an idea or a program that they'd like to see, we're always willing to try it. So,
thank you. My second question really has to go to the overall picture of budget considerations that the council is facing, not only this year, but in the structural deficit that is financial forecasting foresees for next year. Without picking on your department, in trying to get a handle on, so what kind of cuts outside of the school department might be necessary to address that structural deficit. Mr. Perry provided an example of if you cut the senior center department and Parks and Rec together, it still wouldn't really address the structural deficit that we're facing. So my question to you is, in a sense, it's self-evident, but like with the library department, what would be the impact on the city if, as part of what was necessary to address the structural deficit, one approach which could be taken would be to cut departments in full? And if your department was one of them, try to describe what that would mean for the city as the council and the mayor try to figure out how we're going to deal with our budget challenges.
Well, first thing I can think of is Lynch Park. It's the most popular asset in the city of Beverly, and it takes a lot of people to run Lynch Park, again, between our staff, our rangers, our lifeguards, and so forth, and having the expertise to do that. You can't just take all those people away and expect that it's going to continue to run as is.
So closing Lynch Park, for example, might be one impact of that.
Maybe not closing, but again, what we can offer down there is going to be, would be significantly reduced. The splash pad, it takes constant maintenance to keep that up and running because it's getting older, number one, and so things break and need to be repaired. But, a lot of leaves fall on it. We have to clear the leaves off every day so it doesn't clog up. We have to do this, we have to do that. So eliminating the whole department would mean that's going to fall on somebody else or it's not going to happen. And that's just Lynch Park. Again, all of the other playgrounds and courts.
37 of them, you said.
37 parks. There's
Yeah.
28 playgrounds. And as I've mentioned before, we've replaced every one of those in the last 26, 27 years, and now we're into round two, where we're starting to replace the replacements. We just replaced Ball's Playground last year. That was built in 2000, but, had significant wear and tear and had to be replaced again. We're seeing the same thing at Hearn Park and part of the Gardens, which we do have CPC grants to replace. Gillis Park is on the list of things to potentially, hopefully get replaced coming up. All those were built or redone in between 2000 and 2003. So we're, it was great that we redid every playground, but now we're at the point where they're wearing out again and we have to fix them. So having, I don't know if that's something that Mr. Collins's department could absorb, because again, it takes manpower to go out, do the inspections, keep on top of minor repairs. You'll look at doing projects for major repairs. So you'd have 28 playgrounds that may go unattended for a period of time and become dangerous and so forth, because you don't have somebody watching over them all the time.
And that's in addition to all the programming that you've described that takes place in the winter, as well as the very active programming in the
Right.
summer.
Yep. I mean, not to say that some of that program couldn't be, absorbed into another area, but again, that's the thing we're thinking about all the time. What more benefit can we provide to the community?
So if you have, through you, Madam Chair, you mentioned 80 youth who are hired on an annual basis for the summer for, various different programming and rangers. Not only would they not get employment, but all of the services that they provide in supervision and so forth would also be out the window.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Counselor St. Hilaire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Doig. And I know my family's looking forward to the summer down at Lynch. And I don't know why we'd be talking about cutting the recreation department when we can cancel the City Hall project. But beyond that, I have a question about your revenue side of it. In Lynch Park specifically is a gem. What do we charge for out of town? When was the last time we looked at that? Do we benchmark?
We went up to $25 per car on the weekends, 15 during the week, and that was raised probably, it was before COVID, so maybe 8 to 10 years ago. And again, I'm always happy to look at that when you look at Cranes Beach and Singing Beach and other facilities around.
What does that generate for revenue?
Last year was about $115,000, not just for the parking fees, but other, like we rent picnic areas, we rent the Rose Garden, we rent other things at Lynch Park. Frankly, I would like to be able to do more, if I had more resources and people to be able to do a better job of promoting the Rose Garden, doing a better job of promoting the Carriage House, even promoting Lynch Park itself as a destination for people. I know, I go back to when Mayor Scanlon was in office, he said that there was a survey done in Lynn of the most popular beach destination on the North Shore, and the winner by far was Dane Street Beach in Beverly, because parking was free. So raising the fees, which only apply to non-residents, may not bring in a lot more, may not bring in more people. They may find an alternative, but it doesn't hurt to look at that and make, see if it should go up a little bit. Our costs certainly increase every year in terms of, maintaining the bathrooms, maintaining the splash pad, maintaining, the whole facility.
Quick follow-up. What about expanding it to Dane Street, the sticker, or parking, or, you mentioned it is free to park there. It is a free beach. Can't really go anywhere and get free beach.
Right.
Is there any thought about that or discussion?
It's been proposed a number of times over the years to put in meters for non-residents. Obviously, a resident can get a Lynch Park sticker, which shows that they are a resident and they can park there for free, but non-residents would have to pay at a meter. The thought, I think, the opposition I heard was it would drive more people into the neighborhoods, and so people made it, so you'd have to put more meters in or whatever. Again, it has been proposed a number of times, it has been discussed a few times, and it has been shot down, every time it's been brought up. So I'm happy to open that discussion again, because I think we have spent a lot of money at Dane Street Beach, and, the bathrooms are not cheap to maintain over there as well. We rebuilt those bathrooms back in, I think, 2014, 2015. We had them all replumbed and everything, and, we do our best to maintain them, but it's an old building and old facility, so it would be nice to have a little revenue to fall back on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Counselor Sonia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Doig, I'm curious just about, you mentioned grants and the array of grant money that you're able to typically bring in. Can you just sort of speak to that? You know, what's typical? You know, I think it's important to tell folks the story of how each department is working to offset costs through grant writing and bringing in funds from different sources other than you know, taxpayers here locally. So yeah, if you could just speak to that.
Sure. Like I said, the CPC, since it went into effect, I've been submitting multiple, I think initially I was putting in 5, 6, 7 a year, which got a little cumbersome and difficult to manage. So I've cut back to 2 or 3 a year, depending on what the needs are out there. And, you know, obviously they have limited funding too. It's, you know, it's not like it's an endless supply of money, but so I continue to look at the top 2 or 3 projects every year that we're going to submit for a CPC application. The park grants, we try not to go to the well too many times, so, you know, we don't want to be, you know, getting over greedy, but when the opportunity is, it's a $500,000 grant. A couple times it's been only $400,000, but still it's a lot of money, so you can't apply for something to fix a playground that's only $150,000. It's not really worth it. I mean, that's more of a CPC level grant. But, you know, we have had some other opportunities. The splash pad and the new playground at Lynch Park were done through a different type of state grant, and that was back in 2015. You know, we're always looking. You know, the opportunities are somewhat limited, but between the CPC and the park grant, we've been able to, and like I said, the David Lynch trustees, they have a fair amount of money set aside that David Lynch had donated back in the 40s. And in addition to purchasing the property with that money, we've been able to do a lot of work, not just at Lynch Park, but all around the city, because most people think that that money was set aside just for Lynch Park. And Lynch Park didn't even exist when Mr. Lynch was alive. He never lived there, he never owned it. He donated the money for the purchase and maintenance of public parks. So we use it at almost every playground in the city, or every park in the city.
Great, thank you. Just one more question. I'll just say, in response to that, you know, I appreciate how entrepreneurial your department is. Yeah, the amount of opportunities we provide, particularly young people, but not exclusively young people, you know, activities all throughout the year. You know, I think it's one of the best things about Beverly, frankly. Just one more question, because it has been on our agenda as a council for the balance of the year. I know my colleagues, Mr. St. Hilaire and Mr. Mullady, have brought it up. I'm just wondering what the, you know, long-term plan might be for Camp Paradise, given, you know, that we purchased it, and yeah, just sort of what your vision is for that space.
Well, our vision hasn't really changed. We purchased it with the idea that it would be used for educational purposes. When Jocelyn Kersker and I went over and looked at it, the first thing I thought of is bringing in school groups, you know, during the day with teachers, you know, teaching about the wetlands and so forth. And, you know, through Kestrel Education, we have done, I can't give you the exact numbers because John Padall tracks it, but they use that facility, I think every second grade class, there's a number of classes that come twice a year to study the wetlands, and that's all free of charge. So, but we do, just like any other facility that we have, if a group is charging a fee for a program, they pay a limited fee structure. So we are trying to do some of that as well, because it generates a little revenue for us. It provides a recreational or an educational facility for people like that. But we also run a lot of our own programming there. So like I said, we run the Cornhole League, which generates revenue. We run, we have a homeschool group that goes in there a couple times a week during the winter. You know, they're there most of the winter. We shut down for about a month in the dead of winter because of the heat. But so we're, you know, that building is used a lot. That facility is used a lot. And again, I don't have the percentage or the numbers, but if you look at the number of days, it's a fairly high significant number of days that that property is used. And again, we're always open to discuss opportunities. But again, you know, it's not like it's sitting idle every day of the year and looking for somebody to come in and use it, because we're constantly looking at more opportunities to use over there. And again, Boy Scout groups, Girl Scout groups, because they were used to using that facility before it was sold by the Girl Scouts, we give every Beverly troop 4 free overnights. We do charge a small fee to groups that come from outside, but we do get a lot of Boy Scout, Girl Scout troops that want to come and do an overnight, and they are able to use that for free as well. So, again, we have John is constantly updating the schedule and getting calls and requests. And so it's not, again, like it's sitting idle, it's a pretty busy place.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Counselor Spang?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Doig. On the last page of our budget, it's page 159. There's a line entry for Lynch Park that looks like it had been funded at 10,000 for the last couple years, and it's dropping down to 7,000 for next year. Will that cover expenses for Lynch Park and the repair and service for the carriage house and things like that?
Is that in the general budget?
It's in the enterprise fund.
Enterprise,
Sorry about
okay,
that.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
The,
For us, it's the last page of the whole thing. And it's the second line item.
so this is a maintenance account. It's not, it doesn't cover running of the entire park, again, because our ranger costs are about $100,000 a year and so forth. So this was, it did go down because a couple years ago, we made significant improvements to the concession stand area. It used to be just one fairly small room, and we were able to expand that out so there's more usable space. And thus, we were able to get a higher bid on our rental for that, for the concession stand area. But we do make improvements once in a while, we try to fix it up. It's a 125, 130-year-old building, so the maintenance challenges are significant. If you go down and look at the front of that building, you'll see some pretty gaping holes, and our goal is ultimately to find the money to be able to not only make it sustainable and resilient to the flooding that we see, but to also, weatherproof it and make it more usable, so.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other questions? All right. I think that's it. Thanks so much, Mr. Doig.
All right, well, thank you all very much. Pleasure to see you again.
All right. And last but certainly not least, we have Commissioner Collins with Public Services and Engineering. And I'd like to point out that under this realm of public services, which is 4.6% of the overall budget, there's many, many departments, from engineering to highway, snow and ice, cemetery, electric, parks and forestry, and so there's lots of things that you're in charge of. And so we might have lots of questions. So sorry to put you last, but, we got to end with the grand finale. So, so with that, if you have anything that you would like to present on, I know I have some questions, but the floor is yours.
No, just briefly, it's an honor to be here, privilege, and a privilege to work with the men and women of the public services and engineering divisions. I can say without a doubt we have probably the highest functioning public services department, at least on the North Shore and quite a distance beyond. We take on projects that no other similar department takes on and execute them to the highest level. So it's not something you're going to see in any other community. So I'm proud of the work that we do and the people that we have.
Yes, I agree. I've always been really, your department's really responsive. I'm always contacting somebody in engineering about some sidewalk or sending something through the queue, and it gets taken care of really quickly, which I was wondering if you had a number for the amount of full-time employees that are under the public services umbrella.
If you add up everyone, including traffic enforcement and schools, custodians, et cetera, it's 99 employees, total positions.
Okay. Were there any losses in the budget and budget cuts in terms of that?
Yes, 3 cuts.
3?
We lost three full-time equivalents in this budget. This budget, if you look at just the general fund and exclude some anomalies, like there's a transfer you'll see of $700,000 into our electrical division. because we're gonna consolidate the paying of all the electrical bills under our division. There's no new money to us, it's no change to the city, it's just an accounting change to consolidate the bill paying, because in the world we live in, that has gotten incredibly complex in terms of solar credits and things like that.
Right.
And it's better if our business manager, Tracy Reardon, just handles that singularly, so it gets less confusing. So if you take those things out, things like that, and if you take out the significant increase in the trash fee, then we're seeing a year-over-year decline of about 2.1% in the total general fund budget. And if you track inflation over the last 20 years, we are falling behind inflation. So that 2.1% decrease in our budget, largely those three positions, but you also have to account for, we did the much-needed wage and reclassification of our employees last year. Thank you to the mayor and the city council for funding that. But that added additional budget pressure. So we absorbed that, and we lost positions, and we cut the budget. So this is, you know, just as a general warning, I don't have to tell anyone, these are interesting financial times. My department, my budget is where the city has gone over my tenure to solve problems. That problem-solving ability does not exist anymore, so.
So of those 99 employees that are left, how many are part of, or under a union contract?
All but myself, Eric Barber, Tracy, and John Coffey, and Jay Nardella, I think, and everyone else is, so.
So 94, basically,
Yeah.
ballpark. So most of them. Okay. And so that, you had mentioned that electric was flagged, actually, is one of my questions, because, so that's an increase of about 700,000, and you're saying that's because all.
Yeah, it's not new, it's new, maybe new to this line item, but it's, the expense is just moved from another part of the city's budget, or several different places. And it's just a consolidation of all the bill paying under one desk.
Got it. And then I also noticed that public property was zeroed out.
Yeah, we created this is more administrative, we created a maintenance division, you'll see. So if you look back over 5 years, you'll see a maintenance division that didn't exist 5 years ago, but exists now. You see a public properties division that used to exist that does not now. So we've shuffled things around a little bit. We created an administrative section and a maintenance division to try to make things easier to track and more, you know, I hate to use the word transparent, but, you know, to have the names be more reflective of what is actually happening.
That's understandable. Okay, those are my original questions that I had for you. Councilor Osmond, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Mr. Collins.
Good evening.
Yeah, no, there's no question. Your department does an outstanding job. It acquits itself well, given the resources you have. And I know that with the restructuring of the salaries in your department, hopefully that provides, makes it easier for filling positions that go vacant, but obviously you have several, just on page 74, you know, items which, line items which are not filled. Are you, within this budget, looking to fill any positions that are presently vacant?
Yes, every position that is currently unfilled would be filled. That's our goal. 3 of the vacancies were treated out in this budget, so the remaining that you see is -3 that are cut. So there would be more vacancies. It is still, it's not the greatest hiring economy, but since this current federal administration has pretty much made jobs very hard to find, so we're getting more people knocking on the door now, which is we're grateful for. So we're having a little bit better luck. And some of the skilled positions, plumber, electrician, which will save us money if we can fill those, we think we may have struck on one of those, so that's going to be huge for us. So most of these positions, anything we do, we can do for less money than the private sector. Any position. Some of the positions, like plumber, electrician, licensed positions, it's pretty dramatic how much cheaper we are than the private sector.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I have a couple of line items on page 78, capital outlay for purchasing equipment. Your original budget was $150,000. Your projected budget for this next year is $150,000. So this is one up from the bottom on page 78. But the actual in this case is not $150,000, but is presently at $889,000, projected to be $929,000. Can you just talk about what's going on there?
It's just some old POs carried forward. Unfortunately, in this world, it takes years to get delivery on equipment, so the POs tend to stack up. And this may sound ridiculous, but sometimes the truck comes in and I forget I ordered it because I ordered it 3 years ago. I'm like, it's just insane. Like, and we've tried everything to try to shortcut that, but it is, things have not really recovered since the pandemic in terms of, being able to, supply chain is still really messed up. I don't think it's ever going to get fixed because the skilled labor is not out there to build the trucks. That's the big hang-up. We bought some trucks that were actually on the dealer's lot, so we skipped the step of the factory building it. And it still took over 2 years to get them delivered because they couldn't get the employees to put the bodies on the trucks. So,
Can you describe some of the equipment that
a couple of dump trucks, a loader, a rubber tire backhoe, things like that. So, okay. And like dump trucks now, the larger one, 10-wheeler, you're knocking on almost $400,000 for one truck,
I gather from the fact that you carried over the $150,000 that you don't anticipate any more POs like this coming through in this coming fiscal year? Excuse me.
No, that we just don't have that flexibility. We have, the last couple of years, our budget's been pared down, and anything that's discretionary, because let's face it, if you're the fire chief or the police chief, your budget is pretty much salaries. That's it, nothing else. Same with the schools. And in our budget, we build things, we do things. So there's a piece of our budget, 60% of it is salaries or so, and then 40% of it is stuff, bills, materials, things like that. And a few of those things are, we could choose not to pave roads this year, right? And we could save some money. So the discretionary things in our budget could, we have the flexibility of if the city's needs are greater than that particular item, we can choose not to do it. But over the last couple of years, those things that could be considered discretionary are few and far between now. So that leaves us at the end of the fiscal year without as much flexibility to try to fill a hole in our fleet. Our fleet is aging and in a desperate need of pretty much wholesale replacement, but.
Yeah, you are reminding me that DPS is where the city goes when it can't find whatever it needs. There's a lot of coverage that your department ends up handling.
Yeah, we are the first stop of most residents, and we are the last resort of those who can't find solace anywhere else. We don't turn anyone away. We're gonna get you an answer one way or another. And we can help, we do.
Similar kind of question of a smaller magnitude, though, on page 80. Repair supplies. Your budget last year and for FY27, $30,000 in each case, but your actual is $58,000, so almost doubling it. Again, same question. Can you explain, what happened there?
Yeah, it's snow and ice. That's repair supplies specific to snow and ice within the snow and ice budget. And this was a legit winter. We haven't had that in a long time. We had several feet of frost. We were freezing water services, things that just haven't happened in, last time we froze water services really in bulk was 2015. So this was your once every 10-year winter. And so we broke more things, basically. That's the short answer. And you have to buy more parts. We've switched, some of the, as technology improves, the cutting edge, which is the wear part, the sacrificial part on the snow plows, we used to use basic steel cutting edges, and you'd change them almost every storm. Now we use some really fancy carbide with rubber inserts and all kinds of stuff, and they might cost you $1,800, but we can now get 3-4 years out of a cutting edge, which is, saves everybody's, you know, in the middle of a storm, they have to change an edge, but like if you do have to buy one, that could be a couple of grand just for a cutting edge now.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions for now. Thank you.
Counselor St. Hilaire?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner. Also commend your team as well for the work they do. Following up on the capital outlay on page 78, I understand why the 900 is what it is for 2026, but the 150 is, you know, you mentioned that doesn't get you very far. You know, what is that specified for this year?
For the greatest need at the moment, right now, I mean, it doesn't buy us much. We have to buy everything from the lawnmowers that cut the parks up to the dump trucks and street sweepers that are now $300,000-$400,000 a piece. So if we only have 150 to work with, that we can buy a pickup truck, but we have to constantly buy those other, you know, the dozens and dozens and dozens of smaller items, generators, compressors, pumps, things like that, you know, also.
No one big piece, it's sort of a budget for.
We try to buy the bigger pieces out of this line item, but 150 grand is not enough to really do a lot. You know, like I said, it's, you know, that's 2 pickup trucks with plows and accessories. It's, you know, one, what I'd call, you know, we don't buy 1-tons, but they're, you know, a little bit bigger. But, you know, like your typical landscaper truck that's, you know, without a sand.
When you get to this 800,000 number again, is there like a science to that? Like, is that, or is it's really just guesswork, or how much you're like, well, we think
I think it's
an El Nino.
I think as a city, you got to look at it, and the finance director, Mr. Ailes, will periodically review it and say, are we getting beat up every year and having to put $1 million extra into it? And at that point, you decide, well, we need to bump it up. It's one of those line items where we need to be careful as a city. We are allowed to underfund it, if you will.
Yep.
But we really can't decrease it without some ramifications to that. If the city was to decrease that line item and make cuts to it, that would take some flexibility out of the finance director's hands later on reconciling those numbers. So it stays put, and it's an intentional, big enough plug in the hole that it makes the problem less of a problem at the end of the fiscal year. And that's held true over the last 10 years. It's been close enough that we were able to solve the problem. This was a real winter, and we were, you know, as the council just transferred about 1.2 back to us so we could plug that hole. So we're about $2 million. I can tell you our neighboring communities doubled that number. And I think if you look at what our staff did for that amount of money, and if you drove around at all, you saw nobody had roads that looked like Beverly's this winter. So kudos to the staff of really making it work with that kind of money.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I mean, it was like some of the earliest days being a counselor for me, and so there were multiple instances when I got in touch with either you or somebody on your team, and you know, the flag that I received from a constituent was taken care of pretty quickly. And I think Mr. Perry pointed out when we were talking about that transfer just how challenging it has been for neighboring communities compared to Beverly. So thank you very much for that.
All right. Counselor Spang?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to echo the thanks to your department for everything that it does, or both departments, multiple departments. And then I had some questions. It looked like the overtime and police detail lines were all cut almost in half. Will you, and I'm looking specifically at the water enterprise fund at page 133. Will you still be able to, or let me make sure I'm at the right page. Sorry, the water is page 132, where it talks about police private details. It's towards the bottom third. Will your department still be able to do repairs and handle the work?
Yeah, I mean, the way the budget prints, it's a little bit tricky to follow. If you look at what we budgeted last year, it's the same number this year, so we're budgeting the same number this year. And it's really reflective of, you know, how much work we do. And if we don't do, we did some huge projects, Bridge Street and East Lothrop last year. So we, you know, those were police-intensive jobs, you know. We're pretty spread out. You might have 2 to 4 cops on police officers on any given day, and really eating up the police detail rate. So it's not necessarily cut, it's funded at the same amount. There's a recognition that we did double, we ended up spending double that, so we have to find that within the water and sewer budget. I would love to budget more for that and all of those other lines within water and sewer, but that would result in an increased water rate, which is probably not gonna be so popular right now.
Yep, I hear that. I had another question on page 134. It looks like the telephone line is going up quite a bit. I didn't know if that's because it's moving from a different department to now it'll be on the enterprise fund, or?
It's more indicative of a change in how we do business, where a lot of our devices have phones in them, air quotes, phones in them, are connected devices. And we just need that in order to function at the level that we are. We've been investing heavily in asset management, work order systems, and things like that. And all those things require us to have devices that we can access. We're also, our water meters, a percentage of them have cell phones in them. Places, we put in a radio network that will read most of the water meters, you know, hopefully 90+% of them, but some of those are gonna have cell phones in them, and therefore, when I say cell phones, it's not like yours or my cell phone. These are transmitting devices that transmit on a specific bandwidth that is fairly cheap to buy, and, you know, it's not like we have an unlimited plan on our water meters or anything crazy like that. This is strictly limited connectivity for low bandwidth connections late at night for a data burst. The cell companies have spectrum just for that type of thing.
Thank you.
So we have a lot of new costs like that.
That helps. Thanks.
So I know that was kind of a crossover into the enterprise funds, so that's a good transition because we also have, I'm going to open it up to any discussion. I know we have Mr. Hannafin here for the airport as well, but if there was any more questions that we had on water and sewer or golf and tennis, if we wanted to. Oh, yes, Councilor Stein.
Thank you. I had one more. This one's on page 141, and it's a consultant line for engineering costs associated with line cleaning projects. I believe that's relating to sewer lines. And I know there are some of those in Ward 2 that have gotten some work recently, so I just want to make sure that you'll be able to stay on top of those lines, even though that line got cut.
Yeah, you know, our sewer system is like anything else. It's just sitting there waiting to attack us. And so we try to be proactive and go out there and give it a regular checkup. We can't, we are constantly moving through the sewer system, but it can take decades to get from one end to the other. And so it's a cost we're always gonna have, and so.
Do we have any other questions for anyone? Okay, Councilor Hausman.
Yes, Madam Chair. I guess I have one specific question for Mr. Collins, and then I'd be interested in hearing sort of globally on what's posted in the agenda for enterprise funds, a little bit from Mr. Perry, in terms of, you know, where the enterprise funds stand. I mean, I think Mr. Perry does an analysis every year or periodically on retained earnings, what's in the enterprise funds. I just wonder if he has any general comments while we have these enterprise funds for the airport, golf and tennis, and water and sewer. Any salient items that he wants to bring to our attention. But first, Mr. Collins, also on the same subject, page 141. So you mentioned that in general, the discretionary items, so I'm sorry, this is line 53034, consultant for engineering associated with line cleaning projects. You've sort of indicated that, not sort of, you've indicated that discretionary items have pretty much been wrung out of your budget. You are really down as far as you feel comfortable you could possibly go. This is a consultant item. This year's budget was $35,000. It's budgeted for $25,000. Is that because less work is going to be done? Is that because you've got to try to squeeze the budget somewhere somehow, and this is an opportune place to do it? Could you just elaborate a little bit on that?
It's similar to some of the other line items. It's, we need increases in all of these line items, and we're not going to get them.
Yeah.
Plain answer. We do have another bigger line item later, the I&I line item, research and development line item, research and design line item. And we're doing similar work out of that. And if we run into additional problems related to that, we might use this consulting line item for this as well. But you know, we are required by some DEP regulations to have a plan that we did submit and get approved by DEP, I think it was 2014, and updated in 2018, to go after inflow and infiltration in the sewer system. And we're executing that plan. The MS4 stuff, the municipal separate storm sewer system for us is, which is an EPA mandate, unfunded mandate, thank you, to monitor and test all of our storm sewer systems as well, comes out of these line items. So all of these costs are fairly enormous. And at the end of the day, you know, yes, it's an unfunded mandate and it's a lot of work for us and a lot of money. The goal is, you know, cleaner water, healthier wetlands. And so we're certainly not against it. It's just expensive.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just to clarify, listening as a consultant, it simply means less work is going to be done in terms of addressing that mandate. The work will continue, but maybe just less of it this fiscal year. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and if there's a specific project that we cannot fund, we'll have to come back to the council, see if there's a fund balance in the sewer fund, and ask for an additional appropriation. So that's what that means. That if there's something singular that we cannot handle, that is deemed to be urgent, can't wait till next fiscal year until we set the budget and the rates again, then we'll be back right here and ask for additional money if it exists.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so Mr. Perry, my questions for you is, it's very general in terms of, we have it on our agenda for this evening, 3 enterprise funds, airport, golf and tennis, and water and sewer. I know you monitor these, you look at retained earnings, how much they're being spent, and so forth. So it's a general question to give you an opportunity to bring us up to date to the degree you've looked at it recently.
Sure. So annually, the administration does transfer what is known as retained earnings as certified by the Department of Revenue by the various enterprise funds to offset costs. And I put in my report, it's all there, but bottom line, there are enough retained earnings there for the transfers. I'm comfortable with that. The amount of money that they are transferring is appropriate in nature, given the fund balances, so I'm very comfortable with the transfers of retained earnings. I'm glad the airport director's with us. As you know, several years ago, we pushed the jet fuel excise tax. I'm always excited. This is the kind of life I have here, but excited to see that is up a bit, and I'm sure maybe you can talk a little bit about it tonight, but that was a lot of good work done by the council back at that period of time when we brought that back on board. With regard, I mean, the two big enterprise funds are water and sewer. That's certainly a given. And as I told you earlier, the water rates and sewer rates have gone up, but the combined rate is $12.18 per cubic foot, or a 5.54% increase compared to last year. Last year, we went up, I think, a little over 10%, so it's a little bit better this year. To me, all the revenues, based on my analysis, match expenditures on all the enterprise funds. I'm comfortable with that going forward. You should be too. And I think lastly, which Commissioner Collins came before you a couple of months ago, whenever it was, I've lost track now. Certainly the big challenge we have is in the next several years, SCSD. I have worked with the council president a little bit about that and forwarded her a memo with some thoughts and ideas. And I think she's hopefully going to sit with the mayor and Commissioner Collins going forward on that. And though that's not necessarily for tonight, but certainly that's something that is on the horizon that the folks down in the commissioner and the folks at SCSD have some serious challenges coming at us, which I'm sure we'll do the best we can to get at it. But bottom line, Councilor, revenues match expenditures. I'm comfortable with where the finances are, and beyond that, I'm more than happy to answer any other questions you have.
Just a clarifying question for Mr. Perry. I think those of us who are up here understand what retained earnings are on an enterprise fund, but it occurs to me that folks watching on BevCam may not be entirely familiar with the concept of an enterprise fund and what retained earnings are, and maybe it would make sense to sort of just conceptually lay out
Sure.
the conversation we're having.
Sure. Enterprise funds are regulated by Chapter 44, 53.5F, I think it is. I hope I'm right on that. But it's basically a utility service. In other words, it's something that fees are generated on the revenue side to pay for a service. The general fund under the laws of Proposition 2.5 could never pay for water and sewer services. It's impossible to do that. So we generate enterprise funds. They're approved with the request of the mayor and approval of the city council. I think we have 7 or 8 enterprise funds here, which is, as I told Mr. Ailes when I first got there, we have a few more here than I've seen in almost any other community, but it goes to the services that the city needs. So it's an accounting measure. It's almost an accounting that stands all by itself. The water stands by itself. The sewer stands by itself. The airport stands by itself. And they use the retained earnings is almost very similar in nature to free cash on the general fund. So it's, it's a little more complicated, but it's how much money's left over at the end of the year. You can carry it forward as long as it's certified by the state, and then you can use it to offset costs. And so basically, it's an accounting measure. It allows for the service implementation of various services. And from my experience, just about every municipality has a water and sewer enterprise fund. I know very few anymore that do it in the general fund because the general fund just can't afford it. Commissioner could speak to this way better than I, but it's super expensive to provide water and sewer services in any municipality.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to go to Councilor St. Hilaire, and then we'll...
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to go to the sanitation enterprise fund on page 145. I assume this is a result from the new contract, total budget up 34%. I don't know if Mr. Ailes, maybe you could walk us through these line items and just, is this all of the costs associated with the trash program?
Madam Chair, through you. Yes, on page 145, those represent the expenditure side of the Sanitation Enterprise Fund. So that's the total of our entire program. That includes collection of solid waste and recycling, which is the second line down, called curbside pickup. It also includes the incineration costs for the solid waste, which is 2 lines down from that, called incineration contract. We incinerate about 11,800 tons of solid waste trash per year at $92 per ton. That's where you get the $1 million, 85,000 there. And in addition to that, the last line in the expense, it's called other expenditures, but it is the recycling processing costs you see a significant jump in that, and that's because historically, we've paid $62 per ton. We have about 4,000 tons of recycling that we process annually, so we're going from 62 a ton to about $125 per ton. So you see a significant increase there. You also see, to go back up to the top on the curbside pickup side, you see a significant increase there. That's due primarily to labor costs as well as fuel and equipment costs for the haulers as part of this new contract. All these costs that are contained here are in contracts with Casella and who's the incineration? Win? Yeah, with Win Incineration. So those are actual expected costs. In addition to that, we have a couple small items, such as costs associated with the management of the compost site on Stanley Street, as well as some costs we incur for the household hazardous waste day that we do every year.
If I may just follow up, the mayor mentioned in his discussion on this topic that we expect delivery of the carts or containers around June 18th, 19th. Do you have any update on status of delivery to residents?
I do not. I can get an update and share it with you all, though.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Spang.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I actually have a question about the Airport Enterprise Fund, if it works to
Mr. Ham.
transition to that.
Yes.
Hi, counselors.
Thanks for coming. On page 150, the last line item on the page has for contracted services. It looks like it's going up quite a bit. I didn't know if you could explain what those are for.
Yeah, so through you, Madam Chair, that increase, so there's a few things I'm adding, accounting for in that. The first is a contract for stormwater testing. Through our stormwater pollution prevention plan, we're required every so often to test our outfalls at the airport to look for contaminants in any pollution. So a contract for someone to do that and then send it off for testing for us. That's included in there. There's also some vegetation management services included in there. We recently went through an aeronautical study, looks at our airspace and identifies any object that is piercing that airspace. Around here, it's most often trees. And there were several trees identified on airport property that we are required to clear out of the airspace. And so I've set aside some funding in there to take care of some of that vegetation and tree maintenance. I do think I can probably get some grant money to help out with that particular project, but I didn't want to be left, without funds there for taking care of that issue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome, Mr. Hanford. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other airport-related enterprise fund questions? Do you have anything that you would like to share with us about your budget this year?
About what?
About your budget this year?
So, sure. I mean, first I want to acknowledge kind of what Mr. Perry had said, that jet fuel tax that we've implemented within the past 2-3 years has been really, really beneficial for our budget. Last fiscal year, we collected just under $95,000 in revenue from that alone. I suspect this year we'll probably end up in the same, roughly the same spot. I will borrow Ms. Babin's language from earlier on return on investment. The airport has an economic output of around $34 million. That's from a study done in 2019. So it's an immensely important asset for the community and really for the region. We do about 67,000 operations. That's a takeoff or landing per year. Where about 110 aircraft are based at the airport. We have 15 direct lessees that we work with. So it's a vital asset for the region that I'm pleased that we have that in Beverly. So thank you.
I had one question
Yep.
that's not on here. I remember seeing a while back that we're getting an aeronautical museum for Massachusetts
Yeah.
at Beverly Airport. Is that there?
That it is not currently there.
Okay.
The museum itself, they are working still kind of on their end for
Okay.
the funding and donations. We have entered into a lease agreement with them for a portion of Building 45, which, for those familiar, is where the old restaurant was. That kind of portion, the restaurant portion of that building, is where that museum is planning to go in. So right now, they're working on securing their donations and fundings to provide the build-out interior for.
So that's not reflected in the any revenues?
That is
here?
not
Okay.
reflected in any revenues at this point, correct?
Counselor Houseman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is just more a comment than a question. When you first came on board to manage the airport, there were a number of outstanding issues. And I know when I was chair of legal services, legal affairs in my last term, we worked through so a number of those issues resolved. And I guess the most blunt way to put it is a lot of the drama that was going on at the airport in terms of management has, as far as I know, as I hear, has really disappeared since your tenure there. And so I just want to acknowledge that and compliment you on the work that you're doing there. I think it's compliment is well deserved.
No, I really appreciate that. It's an absolute pleasure to work in this capacity and in this community. It's a really special place, so thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. So I think that looks like we're at the end of our questions for tonight and the end of our programming for tonight. I just wanted to make an announcement that our meeting is Council of the Whole on Monday at 7 p.m. here in Council Chambers. That's the 15th. And now, newly posted, we have a Finance and Property Subcommittee meeting on Tuesday, the 16th at 6 p.m. to hear from community services, even beyond possibly veteran services if necessary. So
6 o'clock also.
at 6 o'clock, yep. All Finance and Property Subcommittee meetings are going to be at 6 o'clock, okay? So with that, I would a motion to adjourn Committee of the Whole.
So moved.
All those in favor? And motion to adjourn Finance and Property.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Meeting adjourned.